This book is about Hajj, from Adam to Abraham. Hajj is more than a journey that is a ritual. Hajj is a way of living. This book is written by Safir Rob. Chapter 3. The history of some of the rites of Hajj. Why do we visit the Kaaba? What is the significance of the black stone? Why is Arafat the highlight of the Hajj? Where did the ritual of Tawaf originate? What is the significance of the Station of Abraham? Why should we make Saeed? What is the importance of drinking from the well of Zamzam? Is there any real benefit in stoning the Jamarat? How does slaughtering an animal help to develop my soul? These are some of the questions that enter the mind as one performs the rites of Hajj. We hope to address these and others in this chapter, inshallah. According to Al-Harris, Adam was cast down in India and Eve in Jeddah. He went in search of her, and eventually they were united. Eve drew near to him, hence Muzdalifah. They recognized each other, hence Arafat, and they were united in Jam, hence Jam. Like Muzdalifah, Arafat, Jam refer to some localities near Mecca connected with the pilgrimage. Sometimes it is also considered another name for Al-Muzdalifah. According to Hadith ibn Sa'id Hashem, when Adam's size was lowered to 60 cubics, he started to say, "Oh my Lord, I was your protege in your house, having no Lord but you, and no one watched out for me except you. There I had plenty to eat, I could dwell wherever I wanted, but then you cast me down to this mountain. There I used to hear the voices of the angels and see them crowd around your throne, and to enjoy the sweet smell of paradise. Then you cast me down to this earth and reduced me to 60 cubits. I was cut off from the voices and the sight of the angels, and the smell of paradise left me." God replied, "Because of your disobedience have I done this to you, Adam." Then when God saw the nakedness of Adam and Eve, he commanded Adam to slaughter a ram from the 8 couplets of some cattle he had sent down from paradise. Adam took the ram and slaughtered it. Then he took its wool, and Eve spun it. He and Eve wove it. Adam made a coat for himself and a shift and a veil for Eve. They put on that clothing. Then God revealed to Adam, "I have a sacred territory around my throne. Go and build a house for me there. Then crowd around it, as you have seen the angels crowd around my throne. There I shall respond to you and all your children who are obedient to me." Adam said, "Oh my Lord, how could I do that? I do not have the strength to do that, and I do not know how." So God chose an angel to assist him, and he went with him towards Mecca. However, Adam passed by a meadow or a place that he liked. He would say to the angel, "Let us stop here," and the angel would say to him, "Please do." This went on until they reached Mecca. Every place where he stopped became cultivated land, and every place he did not pass became a desert. He built the house with materials from 5 mountains: Mount Sinai, Mount Olives, Mount Lebanon, Mount Judah. This is the mountain where Noah's Ark came to rest, which in later tradition was identified as Mount Arafat. And he constructed its foundation with materials from Mount Hira near Mecca. When he finished its construction, the angels went out with him to Arafat. He showed him all the rites connected with the pilgrimage that people perform today. Then he went with him to Mecca, and Adam made tawaf around the house for a week. Returning to the land of India, he died upon Mount Noah. These hadith establish that Adam introduced the rites of Hajj to humanity. The highlight of the Hajj, Arafat, is directly related to the family of Adam. Adam and Eve recognized each other as mates in paradise at Arafat. We should keep in mind that Adam and Eve lost some of their heavenly faculties after they were placed in the earth. One of the lost faculties was the sense of heavenly vision. For when they ate from the tree from which they were forbidden, they no longer saw each other in the same way. After they recognized each other at Arafat, this was a sign that they were aware of their union before they lived on the earth. It was narrated by Ibn Abbas. The first lady to use a girdle was the mother of Ismail. She used the girdle so that she might hide her tracks from Sarah. Abraham brought her and her son Ismail while she was suckling him, to a place near the Kaaba under a tree on a spot of Zamzam, at the highest place in the mosque. During those days, there was nobody in Mecca, nor was there any water. So he made them sit over there and placed near them a bag containing some dates and a small water skin containing some water, and set out homeward. Ismail's mother followed him, saying, "O Abraham, where are you going? Leaving us in this valley where there is no person whose company we may enjoy, nor is there anything to enjoy." She repeated that to him many times, but he did not look back at her. Then she asked him, "Has Allah ordered you to do this?" He said, "Yes." She said, "Then he will not neglect us," and returned while Abraham proceeded onward. On reaching the Thaniya, where they could not see him, he faced the Kaaba, raising both his hands, invoking Allah, saying the following prayer: "O our Lord, I have made some of my offspring to dwell in the valley without cultivation by your sacred house, in order, Lord, that they may offer prayer perfectly. So fill some hearts among men with love towards them, and O Allah, provide them with fruit, so that they may give thanks." Holy Quran 14:37. Ismail's mother went on suckling Ismail and drinking from the water she had. When the water in the water skin had all been used up, she became thirsty, and her child also became thirsty. She started looking at him, tossing in agony. She left him and found that the mountain of Safa was the nearest mountain to her on that land. She stood on looking at the valley keenly so that she might see somebody, but she could not see anybody. Then she descended from the Safa and went to reach the valley. She tucked up her robe and ran in the valley like a person in distress and trouble, till she crossed the valley and reached Marwa, where she stood and started looking, expecting that running between Safa and Marwa 7 times. The Prophet said, This is the source of the tradition of walking of people between them, Safa and Marwa. When she reached Marwa for the last time, she heard a voice, and she asked herself to be quiet and listen attentively. She heard the voice again and said, "Whoever you may be, you have made me hear your voice. Have you got something to help me?" And behold, she saw the angel Gabriel at the place of Zamzam, digging the earth with his heel, till water flowed from the place. She started to make something like a basin around it, using her hands in this way, and started filling her water skin with water with her hands. And the water was flowing out after she had scooped some of it. The prophet added, "May Allah bestow mercy on Ismail's mother. Had she left the Zamzam flow without trying to control it, to fill her water skin, Zamzam would have been a stream flowing on the surface of the earth." The prophet further added, "Then she drank water and suckled her child." The angel said to her, "Don't be afraid of being neglected, for this is the house of Allah, which will be built by this boy and his father. And Allah never neglects his people." The house, meaning the Kaaba, at that time was on a high place resembling a hillock. And when torrent came, they flowed to it, right and left. She lived in that way till some people from the tribe of Jurham, of a family from Jurham, passed by her and her child, and they were coming through the way of Qad. They landed in the lower part of Mecca, where they saw a bird that had been having the habit of flying around water and not leaving it. They said, "This bird must be flying around water, though we know that there is no water in this valley." They sent one or two of their messengers to discover the source of the water where the birds were flying, and returned to inform them of the water. So they all came towards the water. The prophet added, Ismail's mother was sitting near the water. They asked her, "Will you allow us to stay with you?" She replied, "Yes, but you will have no rights to possess the water." They agreed to that. The prophet further said, Ismail's mother was pleased with the whole situation, as she used to love to enjoy the company of the people. So they settled there, and later on they sent for their families, who came and settled with them, so that some families became permanent residents there. The child Ismail grew up and learned Arabic from them, and his virtues caused them to love and admire him as he grew up. When he reached the age of puberty, they made him marry a woman from among them. After Ismail's mother had died, Abraham came after Ismail's marriage in order to see his family that he had left behind. But he did not find Ismail there. When he asked Ismail's wife about him, she replied, "He has gone in search of our livelihood." Then he asked her about their way of living and their condition, and she replied, "We are living in misery. We are living in hardship and destitution," complaining to him. He said, "When your husband returns, convey my salutations to him and tell him to change the threshold of the gate of his house." When Ismail came, he seemed to have left something. He seemed to have felt something unusual. So he asked his wife, "Has anyone visited you?" She replied, "Yes. An old man of so-and-so description came and asked me about you, and I informed him. And he asked about our state of living, and I told him that we were living in hardship and poverty." On that Ishmael said, "Did he advise you anything?" She replied, "Yes. He told me to convey these salutations to you and to tell you to change the threshold of your gate." Ishmael said, "It was my father, and he has ordered me to divorce you. Go back to your family." So Ishmael divorced her and married another woman from among them, the Jerham tribe. Then Abraham stayed away from them for a period as long as Allah wished, and called on them again, but did not find Ishmael. So he came to Ishmael's wife and asked her about Ishmael. She said, "He has gone in search of our livelihood." Abraham asked her, "How are you getting on?" asking her about their sustenance and living. She replied, "We are prosperous and well off. We have everything in abundance." Then she thanked Allah. Salawat to Allah. Abraham said, "What kind of food do you eat?" She said, "Meat." He said, "What do you drink?" She said, "Water." He said, "Oh Allah, bless their meat and water." The Prophet said, at that time they did not have grain, and if they had, he would have invoked Allah to bless it as well. If somebody has only these two things for their sustenance, his health and disposition would be badly affected unless he lives in Mecca. Then Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, "When your husband comes, give him my regards, and tell him that he should keep firm the threshold of his gate." When Ishmael came back, he asked his wife, "Did anyone call on you?" She replied, "Yes. A good-looking old man came to me," so she praised him and added, "He asked about our livelihood, and I told him that we were in good condition." Ishmael asked her, "Did he give you any advice?" She said, "Yes. He told me to give his regards to you and order you to keep firm the threshold of your gate." On that, Ishmael said, "It was my father, and you are the threshold of my gate." Then Abraham stayed away from them for a period of as long as Allah wished, and called on them afterwards. He saw Ishmael under a tree near Zamzam, sharpening his arrows. When he saw Abraham, he rose up to welcome him. They greeted each other as their father does with his son, or a son does with his father. Abraham said, "O Ishmael, Allah has given me an order." Ishmael said, "Do what your Lord has ordered you to do." Abraham asked, "Will you help me?" Ishmael said, "I will help you." Abraham said, "Allah has ordered me to build a house here," pointing to a hillock higher than the land surrounding it. Then they raised the foundation of the house, the Kaaba. Ishmael brought the stones, and Abraham was building. And when the walls became high, Ishmael brought this stone and put it for Abraham, who stood over it, and carried on building, while Ishmael was handing him the stones, and both of them were saying, "O our Lord, accept this service from us. Verily, you are the all-hearing, the all-knowing." The Prophet added, then both of them went on building and going around the Kaaba, saying, "O our Lord, accept this service from us. Verily, you are the all-hearing, the all-knowing." It's in another hadith where it is stated, when Abraham completed the erection of the Kaaba, he said, "O Allah, I have completed your holy house." Then Allah replied, "O Abraham, announce among mankind that they should come for pilgrimage." Abraham inquired, "O Allah, how should my voice reach them?" And Allah replied, "You will announce my command, and I shall cause it to reach them." Thereupon, Abraham called out to the world, announcing the pilgrimage, and everyone on earth and in the heaven heard it. According to another hadith, we learn that every person heard that voice and replied, Labbaik, I am present. The same cry uttered by the Hajjis while in Ihram. Whomever Allah granted the good fortune to perform Hajj uttered the Labbaik at that moment. The hadith also states that every person, whether born already at that time or still in the world of souls, to be born at a later time, who recited the Labbaik will surely be granted the opportunity to perform Hajj. Holy Quran states, Behold, we gave the sight to Abraham of the sacred house, saying, Associate not anything in worship with me, and sanctify my house for those who compass it round, or stand up, or bow, or prostrate themselves in prayer. And proclaim the pilgrimage among men. They will come to thee on foot and mounted on every lean camel. Lean on account of journey through deep and distant mountains and highways. We can now see why there are many reasons for the importance of Umrah and Hajj in the development of the evolution of humanity. There is the chief reason, which is obedience to Allah. Abraham demonstrated this obedience when he left his family in the valley of Baca. He left them because of his faith in Allah, and Hagar stayed because of her faith in Allah. Once she knew that Abraham was leaving them in Allah's care, she no longer questioned Abraham. Knowing that she was responsible for a dependent life, Ismail, she put forth an effort to look for water, the substance of life, that she may better care for her baby. She went between Safa and Marwa 7 times until one of her faculties was elevated to another level. Her sense of hearing allowed her to hear the angel Gabriel. By this time, her effort now afforded her another developed scene. She was able to see the angel Gabriel. He was standing by baby Ismail's feet. He drilled a well right under the baby's feet. The substance of life was provided for them. This teaches us that Abraham, also known as the friend of Allah, and his faithful mate, produced an offspring that was the focus for the substance of life. We should learn that our relationship with Allah and our faith should produce offspring in us that should be the focus for the continued life in the desert of materialism. We learn in the history that Hajj is an institution. It is the institution established by many of the righteous servants that came before the seal of the prophets. The instruction to learn in this institution started with the example of Adam and ended in the example of the prophet. There are other historical events that contribute to the rites of Hajj, but we will attempt to cover them in later chapters. At this point, it is asserted that this writing in no way covers everything there is to know about Hajj. The author encourages the reader to seek additional sources of reference in other books on Hajj to supplement the material provided. Remember, Hajj is a duty that each soul owes to Allah. It is required only once. If we are only invited once in our lifetime, then we should take every effort to make it a Hajj that is acceptable to Allah.